Well, if that was not muted, that would be awesome. Can you imagine how awesome that would have been if it wasn't totally muted? Can you even imagine? You can't even. Oh my gosh, you can't even believe how amazing that would be. I mean, just amazing. I saw the chat. I was like, no. I saw who's handsome saying muted, and I was like, no, it's not. It's not. It's not. I don't need you. I saw it was muted. Fine. We'll restart it. Gosh. None of this happened. Okay. Let's just pretend instead I showed up my normal 5 minutes late. This is what happens. This is why we can't have anything nice. This is why I can't show up on time. You always say, why can't Joe show up on time? It's because I'm making sure I'm taking care of things, like, things aren't improperly muted. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. No, it's like, let me rush on out here. Starting late. Let me rush on out here. It's terrible. It's terrible. All right. Well, I don't. What do you want me to do? You want me to like not have things muted? All right. None of this happened. None of this happened. Okay. Those of you who joined late are perfect. Okay, because none of this actually started yet. So there you go. You can't. No one can prove this ever happened.
Show some respect, you people. You're talking to the best governor in history. Fourth biggest economy in the world. Oh my goodness, we thought he was out injured. The crowd is losing their minds, and look at the governor's face. No way. Quit your crying. I'm just like you. I got 960 SAT scores. Frankly, I think we are nothing alike. I don't need illegals to vote by mail to win an election. Give me $100 billion more from my California high-speed train, and I'll leave you alone. Okay, I'll think about it if you do one thing. Acknowledge me! Oh, what a slap. He's rocked. Chair shot right to the skull. He's down. Thrown over the top. He's crashed through the announcer's table. Absolute carnage. I'm the boss. Now Harris comes into the ring to confront the commander-in-chief. She takes a super kick to the face, and she's out cold. Completely out of it. Here comes Jeffries running down the ramp. This is Jim Crow 2.0. He slammed that team of Obama. Voter suppression.
She has to grab the bottle. She comes in with the bottle. That was pretty funny. That was pretty funny. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic. Hope you all had a phenomenal day and a phenomenal 5 minutes waiting for me to first show up here. I apologize that I was a full 5 minutes late, and that's why I only just dropped that opening just now. I am so sorry about that. I will try to be on time and better about that in the future. Oh my God. Such a boomer. Tonight, Antifa has its day of reckoning as they get sentenced for the attempted murder. You all remember that big shootout thing that happened down in Texas with ICE when they like freaking lunatics? They thought they were like at the Alamo or something. I don't know what was happening there, but they're like basically trying to shoot ICE agents. Yeah, well, sentencing happened. Sentencing happened, and it was glorious. You do not mess with Texas. Don't mess with Texas. Also, massive indictment going on today in California. 455 defendants charged with a collective $6.4 billion in fraud. That's right. Our DOJ has been very, very busy. It feels like a whole different DOJ. I don't know what changed over a couple months ago. Something changed, and it just feels like things are happening. I don't know. It just feels like things are happening now with the DOJ. I don't know why. I can't explain it. But yes, our DOJ is busy tracking down that fraud and going after $6.4 billion out in California. Also, speaking of money, Ilhan Omar apparently is super duper broke. So is her husband, Timothy Minette, which sounds like it should be. Tim Minette to me always sound like someone who's like a grade B actor. I don't know why. I was like, there's some actor out there named. There's got to be, right? It sounds like a cuck actor. It just does. Anyhow, Tim Minette apparently is really broke. I have a lot more breaking stories that I plan on sharing with you over the next couple of hours. Plus, we have a goal tonight, which is if we get 15 super chats in quantities of $10 or more. And yes, tonight I made sure it actually was $10, not that little green teal thing that I accidentally put out there yesterday. But if we get 15 of those, or it could be Rumble Rants, it could be Digger dollars, it could be Venmo, PayPal, whatever it is, we got 15 of those. We got 15 of those. And tonight we will come back and manifesto. Plus, I'll even read you a little tidbit of perhaps the most articulate manifesto I've ever seen that was shared with me yesterday with fans. I started looking through tonight. I was like, holy moly, I feel like I'm back in college. This is insanity. What the hell is being written here? This doesn't read like a manifesto. I'm going to teach you. I'll teach you what makes for a manifesto, okay? Because I don't know what I'm reading over here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm reading. This is not a manifesto. It's not. Some of these manifesto writers, some of these lunatics, someone needs to sit them down and say, hey, look. There's certain rules, there are do's and don'ts of a manifesto. And you're not keeping up with the high standards that your predecessors have laid out before you. So don't embarrass yourself. You get one shot at this. You get one shot at having a good manifesto. That's it. One shot. You can't afford to blow it. You can't blow it. You blow your manifesto. This is the mark you're leaving on the world forever. This is your legacy. You're going to risk blowing that? Humiliation. Terrible. Awful. Well, anyhow, all that and more. So buckle up, grab your popcorn, sit yourself right down in there as we're about to begin the show. And I'm going to start off by talking to you about, should we be on topic or off topic? On topic or off topic? Let's start off talking to you about Antifa. Let's start off talking to you about Antifa. Folks come in here and they're like, hey, I want to know what's going on with Antifa. So let's start you off right. We're going to start you off right. Eric Dougherty reporting in that a group of Antifa terrorists were just sentenced to hundreds of years in prison after their violent attack on an ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas. FAFO! Lock them up. I voted for the law and order. So did I. I don't know about you, but Eric and I voted for law and order. We did. I assume you probably did too. The group's ringleader, Benjamin Song, got 100 years. A century in prison. A full century in prison. The others got as many as 70 years and 50 years. Big win. Big win. Let's hear this report here.
8 defendants convicted in the Prairieland ICE detention center attack case will be sentenced today in federal court in Fort Worth. So far, only 3 have learned their fates. Benjamin Song was sentenced to 100 years in prison. Cameron Arnold and Zachary Evans were both sentenced to 50 years. It comes more than 3 months after a federal jury found the group guilty following a 12-day trial stemming from an incident last July 4th outside the detention center in Alvarado. 8 defendants were convicted of charges including rioting, providing material support to terrorists, and explosives-related offenses. Benjamin Song was also convicted of attempted murder in the shooting of an Alvarado police lieutenant. The others face possible sentences ranging from 10 years to life. 8 defendants.
So there you go. 8 defendants. One got 100 years, someone else got 70 years, and we got 50 and 50 and 50 and 50 and 50 and 30 years for combined 450 years. 450. 450. Oh, so nice. Oh, so nice. You can see what I'm really most excited for is that their local facility is going to get decorated in all sorts of bright colors, and they're going to get the snot being out. You see, you think I don't know that he faced off against Brad Lander? You think I don't know this? You think I don't know that he lost his primary 65-34? You think I don't have this? Is this what you think of me, Kimmy? You think I don't know anything about this? I do. I'm working my way there. That's one of the side stories. That's one of the side. It's all from the side. We're going to get there. We'll get there soon. Just have faith in me. Have faith in me. I appreciate it you calling that to my attention, because if I hadn't seen it, that would be something I would regret missing. So I appreciate you. Just busting chops, much like Texas is when it comes to Antifa, because they're busting chops hard. Leader of Antifa, some members in North Texas sentenced to 100 years in prison. 7 additional defendants also sentenced. Today, the Justice Department announced that 8 North Texas Antifa cell operatives were sentenced for their roles in rioting, using weapons and explosives, providing material support to terrorists, obstruction, and the attempted murder of an Alvarado police officer at the Prairie Land Detention Center on July 4th, 2025. It's less than a year. This is the first sentencing of defendants affiliated with Antifa following President Donald J. Trump's executive order designating the group as a domestic terrorist organization in September 2025. Benjamin Hanil Song, who was convicted of the attempted murder of a law enforcement officer, was sentenced to 100 years in prison. So he's scheduled to come out to get out of court on June 23rd, 2126. Maybe he'll get early parole and get out like in the spring of 2105. Oh God. Yes. Okay. Together, the Prairie Land terrorists received combined sentence of 450 years in prison. Marciela Rueda was sentenced to 70 years in prison. Cameron Arnold, 50 years. Savannah Batten, 50 years. Zachary Evans, 50 years. Bradford Morris, 50 years. Elizabeth Soto, 50 years. Daniel Rolando Sanchez Estrada, he got just 30 years. It's only 30 years. 30 years. You can do that standing on your head. 30 years? What's 30 years? What's 30 years between friends? The sentences handed down today make clear that Antifa terrorists who attack law enforcement and federal facilities will face swift and uncompromising justice, said Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. Quote, their violent extremism has no place in our country, and the Department of Justice will continue to aggressively investigate, disrupt, and prosecute those who threaten law enforcement officers or undermine the rule of law. Today's sentencings show the FBI remains committed to identifying, locating, and dismantling Antifa and its funding networks across the country, said FBI Director Kash Patel. Acts of violence against our law enforcement partners will not be tolerated, and we continue our work to protect communities across the country from domestic terrorism. These sentences justly punish the vicious armed attacks that these freaking lunatic Antifa cell members planned and executed last year and detention center officers on the night of July 4th last year. Did I skip a line? I did. These sentences justly punish the vicious armed attack that these Antifa cell members planned and executed against law enforcement detention center officers on the night of July 4th last year. So U.S. Attorney Ryan Raybould for the Northern District of Texas. Their terrorist acts, attempted murder, vandalism, and explosives launched out of a detention facility were a far cry from a peaceful protest or First Amendment expression. Because of the prompt action of first responders that night and tenacious work of our law enforcement partners in tandem with the prosecutors in my office, 8 people have been rightly punished for these violent acts and their attempts to conceal them. We will continue in this mission to hold others accountable who perpetrate such violence and fund these Antifa groups in the Northern District of Texas. I have to just go on record as telling you it's very important that we prosecute those who fund these Antifa groups. These people don't have any money. They can't start building explosives and guns on their own. Most of them are broke as anything. They don't have this stuff. They don't do the planning. There's other people. I don't just want the folks who are there on the ground, as boots on the ground, acting like lunatics. No. We need the heads who are behind these people. We need the money. We need the money sponsors. They got to be punished. This is, I don't know why my phone just all of a sudden launched up with this. It just said, I don't really have money. I don't understand. It's like reading when I hate Bixby. I don't really have, look at, it's just listening to me. It's very eavesdroppy. Well, anyhow, these sentences handed down today send an unmistakable message. Attacks on federal officers and facilities will not be tolerated. The men and women of ICE serve with integrity, courage, often in challenging and dangerous environments. It's true. The calculated violence carried out by these Antifa cell members at Prairieland was an assault on law enforcement and an attack on the rule of law itself, said acting ICE Director David J. Venturella. Nearly 1 year after this cowardly act, justice has prevailed. ICE will continue to stand firm against those who threaten our officers, our facilities, and our mission. The sentences follow a 12-day trial that began on February 23rd, where jurors heard testimony from 46 witnesses, considered over 210 exhibits supporting the charges against 9 indicted defendants. Cameron Arnold, also known as Autumn Hill, Zachary Evans, Benjamin Song, etc., all were convicted, but Ines Soto was granted continuance and will be sentenced on July 1st. 7 others, Seth Sykes, Nathan Bauman, Joe Gibson, Susan Kent, Rebecca Morgan, Lynette Sharp, and John Thomas pled guilty prior to trial to 1 count of providing material support terrorists, and they will be sentenced on July 1st. So next week, we're going to get more sentencings. They'll probably be shorter sentences because they pled guilty. Probably be shorter sentences. They said in that report what they're expecting them to range on average 10 years. Well, that's enough to send a cold chill down the spines of Antifa members. Testimony and other evidence at trial established that the defendants were members of North Texas Antifa cell, part of a larger militant enterprise made up of networks of individuals and small groups primarily ascribing to an ideology that explicitly calls for the overthrow of the United States government, law enforcement authorities, and the system of law. These people, they're lunatics. They literally just, they're screaming insurrection. This is literally insurrection. That's what this is. That's what you should be charged with. Insurrection, you'd be charged with way more serious crimes. An expert testifying in the government's case told the jury that Antifa's coordinated efforts involve obstructing federal law through organized riots, violent assaults, and armed confrontation with law enforcement officers, increasingly targeting agents and facilities related to Department of Homeland Security, immigration, and as well as ICE, and in opposition to the agency's deportation actions. Evidence at trial revealed that most of the Antifa cell involved in the Prairieland attack looked to Benjamin Song as a leader, and I'm sure that he will be leading a church choir pretty soon. Song, I assume it's pronounced song, not song, like singing a song, but song. It's just because you know those people. All the Africans named Song. They tend to go with that. Song acquired firearms that he distributed to co-defendants and recruited members at gun ranges and combat sessions he conducted, as well as from various ideologically aligned groups. For example, Defendants Ines Soto, Elizabeth Soto, and Savannah Batten were part of a group that created and distributed insurrectionary materials called zines, according to trial evidence. What are zines? Zines. I assume it's pronounced zines as in the back end of the word magazine as opposed to zines. I'm assuming this is zines. I am curious what would be incorporated. I mean, what's it, just pamphlets? What are zines? Do you know? You just don't want to tell me? Some of you know. You just don't want to tell me. You're keeping it from me. Trial testimony reflected that late at night on July 4, 2025, at least 11 of the defendants rioted and attacked the Prairieland Detention Center in Alvarado, Texas, which the U.S. Department of Homeland Security was using to house illegal aliens awaiting deportation. The defendants dressed in black bloc, dark clothing with head and face coverings that conceal their identities, designed to hide each individual's identity, but also aid and abet those members engaged in illegal acts by making members indistinguishable from one another to law enforcement. Evidence introduced at trial revealed that the defendants brought 11 firearms, body armor, and 11 military-grade first aid kits with tourniquets and other items to treat gunshot wounds at the scene of the attack. Many of these items were introduced by the government as exhibits. Additionally, DNA, fingerprint evidence linked many of the defendants to the items at the scene, and evidence obtained on phone locations supported that those who participated in the attack all turned off their phones or placed them in Faraday bags to prevent tracking on the night of the attack. So this was obviously something that they invested a great deal of time and effort to try and plan in order to facilitate the likelihood of their success. After Antifa cell members arrived at the detention facility, they began shooting off and throwing fireworks explosives at the facility and vandalizing vehicles and a guard shack on Prairieland property. You see the pictures of what they're... Antifa cell members violent, and this also had F you pigs, which, okay. Graffiti punctured the tires of facility van and broken facility surveillance camera. Witnesses testified that an Alvarado police officer responded to this scene after correctional officers called 911. When the officer began issuing commands to defendant Nathan Bauman, Benjamin's song could be heard on a police body cam video yelling, "Get to the rifles!" And then he opened fire on the officers, striking the Alvarado police officer in the neck as the unarmed correctional officers ducked and ran for cover. This dude, it's a miracle he's not on the ground. I like it better this way. I like it better that he's sentenced to 100 years. It's much better than him being dead. Is that what it is? Is that what it is? It's magazines that can't say MAGA? That's funny. That's funny. Police arrested most of the Antifa cell. Shortly after the attack, many near the scene. Benjamin's song escaped and remained at large with the help of others until his capture on July 15th, 2025. Trial evidence demonstrated that collectively, this Antifa cell acquired over 50 firearms in the Fort Worth, Dallas area prior to July 4th. During trial, the government introduced numerous chats of the members who used an encrypted message app, which is probably Signal, to coordinate with each other that had auto-delete functions, permanently deleting some Antifa cell members' communications. They also used monikers in group chats to hide their identities, and some of the planning chats included only trusted participants. The chats introduced at trial revealed that members in this limited group conducted reconnaissance and discussed what to bring to the riot, including firearms, medical kits, and fireworks. You can see some of their dialogue over here. There's a cop that's been involved in like every major shooting disaster in recent history. Let's say we had a good intel on a daytime target combo. What would we do about it? Block roads, slash tires, something else. Try to confront and turn out a lot of people. My thinking is we can go out and do whatever at any time, but picking a good confrontation is about building momentum. Chats between Song, who's known as Champagne, and Evans, John Valjean, the day before the attack. Tim's Champagne saying, I think you'd be surprised. Cops are not trained or equipped for more than one rifle, so it tends to make them back off. Knee and elbow pads are great, as are helmets. Shields are useful, but you might not be able to bring them out to the front every time. The key strategy is to be water, aka stay mobile, stay destructive, disruptive. Your gear should help maximize that. The black bloc is like Tor. The more people using it, the better it becomes. Everyone should use it. We don't need black flags. We need it when we are a sea of black blocks. These are files that are stored on Everett's phone listing Antifa tactics strikingly similar to the defendant's tactics. Witnesses who testified during the government's case included the Alvarado police officer who was shot in the neck by Song, detention officers present that night who also took cover from rapid fire, multiple additional responding officers, numerous investigative agents, and cooperating co-defendants, including Bauman, Sharp, Thomas, and Kent. So these are the people supposed to be sentenced next week, who they basically turned states. They ratted on their friends to try and get a reduced sentence. Among other things, Kent testified that the night before the attack at the gear check, Song proposed to free the detainees at the Prairieland detention facility and told the group that they should wear black bloc and bring rifles because he, Song, wasn't going to be arrested. Evidence at trial also revealed that some of the defendants attended a peaceful daytime protest at Prairieland on July 4th without the gear they brought that night, and that they reported back to other defendants details regarding security at facilities. They were basically going on a recon. They're basically trying to figure out what are we going to be dealing with when we go in there tonight. These people are scum. Gates take approximately 15 seconds to open close. It also stayed open for 20-ish seconds, but that may be just a default setting. So this is part of their recon. The sentences of the 8 defendants were for the following offenses. Riot with the intent to commit an act of violence involving conduct such as shooting and throwing fireworks and explosives, slashing tires on government vehicles, spraying graffiti on property and vehicles, destroying a closed-circuit camera, shooting at officers, and dressing in black bloc. The defendants convicted of this were Cameron Arnold, Zachary Evans, Benjamin Song, Savannah Batten, Bradford Morris, Marciela Rueda, Elizabeth Soto, and Ines Soto. Providing material supports terrorists, including property, services, training, communications, equipment, weapons, explosives, personnel, including themselves, and transportation. And it seems like we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all 8 of them. Conspiracy to use and carry an explosive and using and carrying explosive during a riot. Again, all 8 of them. Arnold, Evans, Song, Batten, Morris, Rueda, Soto, and Soto. Attempted murder of officers and employees of the United States involving the unlawful attempt to kill with malice aforethought an Alvarado police officer who was assisting federal officers and agents. That's where Song got his extra 30 years. Discharging a firearm during in relation to in furtherance of a crime of violence. Attempted murder. Defendant convicted, again, Song. Corruptly concealing a document or record by transporting a box containing numerous Antifa materials, one of them zines, such as insurrection planning, anti-law enforcement, anti-government, anti-immigration enforcement documents, and propaganda from Sanchez Estrada's residence to a location in Denton, Texas, intending to conceal the box's contents and impair its availability for use in a federal grand jury and federal criminal proceeding. That they got Daniel Rolando Sanchez Estrada on. So he got hit with that. Conspiracy to conceal documents and other objects that would implicate Marciela Rueda in the riot. So they got Sanchez Estrada and Marciela Rueda. Defendants Song, Morris, Rueda, and E. Soto were sentenced by U.S. District Court Judge Mark T. Pittman for the Northern District of Texas. When imposing the sentences, Judge Pittman said, "It's by the grace of God that Song is not dead." I just said that. Didn't I just say that? I'm pretty sure I said that. I said that. I was like, I don't know how he's not dead. I don't know how he's not dead. And I'm glad he's still alive. I want to serve all 100 years. And I hope every day is miserable. He managed to get 11 shots in seconds. Then the officer shooting blindly happened to hit the magazine well of Song's rifle. Mr. Song's lucky he isn't dead. We had a guardian angel that ensured Mr. Song isn't dead, and we don't have several deceased people at Prairieland. Defendants Arnold, Evans, Batten, Sanchez Estrada was sentenced by Chief U.S. District Court Judge Reed O'Connor for the Northern District of Texas. When imposing the sentence, Chief Judge O'Connor said, "The defendant's violence and terrorism is an assault on democracy. Boo! 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 Never use the word democracy in this context. Boo! Boo! Boo!" I feel like I'm an old woman. Boo! Oh, gosh. I should fix it for you. The defendant's violence and terrorism is an assault on our constitutional republic. The defendant's planning, staging, and execution of the attack led to the attempted murder of an officer who ironically is not even involved in enforcing immigration law. The sole count to provide material support to terrorists brought in the information against Bauman, Gibson, Kent, Morgan, Sharp, Thomas, and separately Sykes' information mirrors the material support offense and the charges presented to jury at trial. Each of the defendants faces a sentence of up to 15 years in federal prison and will be sentenced on July 1, 2026. The investigation was conducted by the FBI Dallas Field Office, Homeland Security, ATF, Texas Department of Public Safety, Alvarado Police, Johnson County Sheriff's Office with assistance from ICE and ICE ERO. So there you go. There you go. Ship them out. Ship them out. They've been shipped. They've been shipped. Adios, amigos. Adios, amigos. Go away. Go away. There's one guy who's particularly happy about this. He's worked on his moves. He's got much better. No longer just the. No, he's got new moves. It's nice to see. Nice to see. JH saying, "Joe, is there any way we can have Portland Antifa tried in Texas? These people make my groin hurt. I'm going to locals. I got coin." Oh, do you? Oh, do you? Oh, do you? All right, I'll try to check out locals. You can make your manifesto a zine, a small pen. No, I'm not. I'm not making my manifesto a zine. No. Did I mention I was very unimpressed with that manifesto I was reading today? Don't get me wrong. I mean, the guy seemed highly educated, like too educated, like almost like, yeah, I'm starting to see why you went off the reservation. It's because you spent all this time in college. Highly educated, but yeah, this was madness, and it was not madness in a good way, not in a cool manifesto way. No. This was bad madness. It was badness. It was terrible. It was professional badness. It was awful. It's like he thinks he's writing some sort of peer-reviewed clinical report. It was stupid. I was reading it. I was just like, this is not fun. Why did I read it? I was like, you know what? I could literally, if this is any good, I could literally spend the show reading this manifesto to you. That's what I was thinking. I was like, I can make a whole show out of that. I can do that. Why can't I do that? I can totally do that. No, trust me. If I started reading it, you would just be like, I'm so sleepy, Joe. That's what you'd be doing. I'd be hearing you yawning from like, I don't know, across the country. I'd be like, oh my God, cover your mouth when you yawn. It would just not be good. It would not be good. You'd be deafened by the sound of people clicking away. It's very boring. It's boring stuff. Very boring stuff. Very boring stuff. To quote the book of Proverbs, bye-bye dipshit. Is that really in the book? Is that really 26:18 in Proverbs? Is that really? Is it? I have questions. And I don't know that I trust your source for that. Hans Wumpeck says, I recall the significant stories about Michigan militias, anti-government groups in the 90s. Unlike Antifa, they never became just an idea. Happy this idea is now getting 450 years in jail. Spuds 1964 says Goldman may be a POS, but his supporters may help back Bruce Blakeman for governor in November. New York State Constitution allows for the governor to fire the mayor of New York City. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I mentioned that I saw this whole thing that I wanted to share with you about. Where is it? Yeah, you see? This is what Kimmy wanted to make sure I didn't miss out on. I actually met Brad Lander when I went down. The last time I went to New York City, which was, I don't know, 6 months ago. Last summer. I think last summer is the last time I went to New York City. And he was there holding some sort of conference or something. It was like, I think it was during the Diddy trial. That's when I was walking down the street and I saw him there making some sort of statement about ICE or something. So it was before the election. And he was like basically Mamdani's right-hand man, which is why he was endorsed by Mamdani. And here he is now, the new Democrat candidate in basically the bluest district in the world. He's going to be a member of the House, Brad Lander, this guy.
Candidate. That race now has been called. Brad Lander beat Dan Goldman.
I keep calling him Landman, but it is Lander.
That surprised me.
Yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me. I fully expect that, and I think you're going to see. I can almost guarantee, the one that calls to abolish police, abolish the border. There are no reasons to deport anybody, and abolishing prisons. I mean, she said all of this. She actually said F Kamala Harris. I mean, these are the people who we are electing, and they're going to.
I think he's referring to AOC on that because his district, Goldman's district, and AOC together comprise New York City.
Send them here to Congress. Someone who wants to abolish our border and abolish prison. That's not a Democrat. That's a full-on lunatic. I can't imagine. This is the kind of model that we're going to win real elections. Yeah, you can elect someone like that in a district in New York, but when you're in a state like Pennsylvania, that's going to keep you honest. And my views now have put me out an outlier, but that is beyond absurd. Now, as we continue to witness what's happening, whether in Maine or in Michigan or.
So there you go. John Fetterman reminding everyone why he's better than like 90 other senators. I'm including all them stupid, hokey members of our GOP Senate. Seriously. Way better. Way better. You think he's not better than Chuck Grassley? Blue slip Chuck Grassley? He is. So I think he's better than Josh Hawley. All these other idiots who decided I was Tom Cotton. He's better. It's sad to say. That's how bad our stupid neocon Senate is. But anyhow, so it seems Dan Goldman, who is a professional liar, he is, and he's a grifter. He's a lying grifter. He's out on his keister now, and is going to basically be a lame duck Democrat. It'll be interesting to see if he burns any bridges on his way out. The way we always anticipate these Republicans like Cornyn and Kasich, like basically trying to burn it down because they get mad when they get primaried out. So it'll be interesting to see if Dan Goldman starts burning some Democrat bridges in retaliation and his ire about the fact that he's been ousted by Brad Lander in his primary. It's humiliating to lose your primary. It is. It is. But it shows you just how influential, in particularly regions like New York, and probably California, the loony leftists have become. Because Brad Lander is a loony leftist. He is. He's every bit as loony as Zohran Mamdani. So there's no logic to the lunacy. It's just ridiculous socialism. And the question is, at this point, I'm starting to really believe that if I were AOC, I would be primarying Schumer. I think if AOC primaries Schumer, she takes him out. That's how lunatic, that's how insane New York has become. I think if she primaries Schumer, she takes him out. And I think that she wants to be a senator. And she looks at it as like a step towards what she's hoping is the White House. So if I think that she succeeds. I think that she takes the Senate if she wants it. I don't see him standing in her way. He might try. But, you know, she's less of a lunatic than Brad Lander and Zohran Mamdani. As shocking as that may be. She's stupider, far stupider. But we're going to be hearing a lot more about AOC soon. George Conway in 5th in his primary sent the post. Did you? That sounds like fun.
He's fighting for his life.
This is George Conway, lunatic, deranged leftist. See, this is, now you're bringing me the good stuff, Kimmy. Now you're bringing me the good stuff.
He's fighting for his life here. He's fighting for his freedom here. These cases, these criminal cases, not the one in New York, not the civil.
This was in January 2024. Little did he know that he was 10 months away from winning the Electoral College.
One in
That's
New York.
money.
That's just money. Well, that means a lot to him. These cases can put him in jail for the rest of his life, and I think probably will.
Trump will reportedly deliver. I'm sorry, it's hard to even read. Trump. Okay, let me read it with a straight face.
You can do it.
Possible. It's not possible. It's not possible.
You can
Trump
just
will reportedly deliver part of his New York fraud closing arguments himself. Willie, my God, the gods, the cable news gods.
This will be the best closing argument.
They rained manna down from the heavens to all cable news executive producers wondering what they're going to do. Well, forget cable.
Yeah, idiots. You can't film anything in New York. So what the hell's cable network news going to do with this?
News, the late night comics, Willie. Oh, my God. Late night comics are going to have a field day on this.
Well, you know, he does believe that he is his own best representation, that he alone can fix it. So I think he probably thinks he is so persuasive and so charming that if he got face to face with a jury, they would come around him, or he might just threaten them.
They're so dumb.
He could go either
attorneys. And this is the hat George Conway gave me to give you, Joe. I feel bad for them as they watch the closing arguments on Thursday as Donald Trump delivers them. And by the way, we're reclaiming the red hat. You've made this one. Mine says know your value.
Yeah, that worked. That totally worked. Know your value. Every time I go down the street, I see all these red hats that say know your value or make attorneys get attorneys. That's your tyranny. These are the people complaining about tyranny. The ones who are creating slogans like make attorneys get attorneys, as in, let's start charging his attorneys. Let's start bringing criminal charges, indictments against his attorneys so that they have to get attorneys. That's what these tyrannical lunatics, I have no sympathy for them. No sympathy for any of them. Thank you for sharing that, Kimmy. That was nice. I think we all learned something. Okay. What more can I share with you? I feel like I've given you such gold already, but I have more. I have more. So apparently, this is kind of sad. I have kind of sad news for you. Kind of sad news. It looks like Nancy Guthrie is dead. You don't know it, but it seems like you remember a kidnap victim. Savannah Guthrie's mother was a kidnap victim. It looks like she's probably dead and has been for a while. So I think a lot of people suspected that by now she hasn't been returned. She's likely no longer alive. This is ransom note from Nancy Guthrie's alleged kidnapper apologized for her accidental death, demanded money for her body. The second ransom note sent to a Tucson television station shortly after the February abduction. It's only back in February. We're talking now 4 months. Of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie claimed she had died shortly after being taken and was buried in nature, according to a new report. The note received around February 6th was a major shift from the earlier message from the same IP address that had demanded millions in Bitcoin for her safe return. The latter note adopted a, quote, new, less confident tone and included a sputtering and labored apology for her inadvertent death, sources told Airmail in a detailed report on the investigation. The person claiming to be the kidnapper reportedly floated returning her body in exchange for payment. After the second note was received, Savannah Guthrie posted a video addressing the alleged kidnapper. Quote, we received your message and we understand, Savannah Guthrie said. We beg you now to return our mother to us so we can celebrate with her. Celebrate with her? What does that mean? I don't even understand this phrase. What does this mean? I've never heard this phrase. Have you heard this phrase before? I've never heard this phrase before. So we can mourn her properly. So we can have peace. The only way we'll have peace, this is very valuable to us and we will pay. Investigators with the FBI and Pima County Sheriff's Department were given the notes, which allegedly contained specific non-public details about the crime scene and flagged them as potentially credible and likely originating from the actual abductor or abductors. These details include a broken floodlight behind Guthrie's home and information about the Apple Watch she was wearing when she disappeared. Quote, there are a lot of different notes I think that came, and I think most of them, it's my understanding, are not real. And I didn't see them, Savannah Guthrie said in an interview with NBC. But I believe the two notes that we received that we responded to, I tend to believe those are real. Several ransom notes were sent to media outlets in the days after the disappearance, including TMZ, which has confirmed the notes they received did not mention her death. TMZ also received emails from another individual claiming to know Guthrie's location and the kidnapper's whereabouts in exchange for Bitcoin. One of those emails initially said time is of the essence, but a later message said time is no longer of the essence, which Levin interpreted as possibly implying she was no longer alive. Let's hear him breaking down, because TMZ at one point was receiving ransom notes. So that's how they became directly involved in this whole investigation.
I want to talk about Nancy Guthrie and some communications I've had with the FBI that I haven't talked about until now. But I want to start with these reports that this ransom letter that we received kind of apologizes to Savannah Guthrie and her family for the kidnapping, and that that Nancy was no longer alive. That was not in the ransom note that we received. It is not in that ransom note at all. It does say that she's scared, but okay. But the ransom note makes no reference to Nancy Guthrie either dying or the kidnappers apologizing. Now, there is a reference to Nancy Guthrie not being alive anymore, but that is from the person who sent us multiple emails saying that he knows or knew where Nancy Guthrie was and where the kidnappers were, and he wanted money in return for information. We passed that along to the FBI as we did the ransom note, but this person kept sending us emails. And early on, he said, time is of the essence. And then a few days after the kidnapping, he said, time is no longer of the essence, meaning she wasn't alive. So that's where that came from, not the people.
So you can, that seems to be a logical conclusion that, like, if he's saying time is no longer of the essence, you kind of conclude, yeah. By the way, I should put on note here, every time I see this guy sitting here with that background behind him, I kind of want to punch him in the face, like very, very badly, because, and I will never, ever forget him talking about Charlie Kirk in this exact spot that they're filming him now, and in the background them cheering when they heard that Charlie Kirk died. So yeah, that's what makes me basically want to punch him in the face.
Who kidnapped her, but from the person who was sending us these notes. Now that person wanted effectively $100,000. He actually reduced it at some point, but that's what he wanted in return for giving information about the whereabouts of Nancy Guthrie or her remains and the kidnapper. This person also said that he was afraid that he might be implicated. He had a burglary on his record from, I think he said 11 years before. And apparently he knew these kidnappers well enough that he was afraid he might be implicated. He also said he wanted to go underground, which is why he needed the money, because he was afraid that they would exact revenge on him for blowing the whistle on the kidnappers. So
I got to pause here because I'm seeing all you saying celebration of life, celebration of life. So this is really, it's really interesting. That's really interesting. One of you was saying that's an Irish, Judge May is saying an Irish wig. I'm not sure if Guthrie is Irish. Is Guthrie Irish? It's such an interesting, expression to me. Celebration of life. I always thought the Irish wig was bizarre. I'm not going to kid you. I thought it was a really bizarre costume. I sort of looked at it as like it's an opportunity to try and forget through drink. So it's sort of like an excuse for that. But celebration of life is such an interesting turn. I can't even wrap my head around it. I'm really struggling to wrap my head around it. Why wouldn't you celebrate life while the person's living? I thought that's what birthday parties are for. Birthday parties should, to me, make sense for a celebration of life. But a celebration of life is a celebration about the past. Isn't it? I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like there's something I'm missing. I mean, I guess, like, you know, like your religious heritage really comes out when it comes to issues of death. So you're all, look, obviously when she used the term, she was saying something that resonated with the rest of you. So this is clearly a Christian thing as far as the notion of having a celebration of life when someone passes. But it is a fascinating thing to me. Because I'll tell you, at Jewish funerals, there's no such thing as a celebration of life at a Jewish funeral. That's like that. No, we don't do that.
The FBI never paid that money or never got.
I assume that you're saying that the person is now, from Christian perspective, is now with Jesus. And we believe that the soul goes up to heaven as well. But that's still not a reason for us to party here. Like we wouldn't.
The Guthrie family to pay the money to the person who was sending us these letters, these emails. I will tell you that the FBI did put around $270 in the bit.
In case I've disrupted too much of what he's saying, I did watch his report earlier when I was doing my homework for this show. What he basically is saying is, look, there's a guy out there who we don't think is the kidnapper, but he seems to be in cahoots with them or knows them or has some sort of ties to them and was knowing what was going on. And we think that, my personal perspective is we think that this guy knows what's going on because when he's emailing us, he's saying, hey, there's a matter of urgency. And then the next day he sends us an email saying, well, it's no longer a matter of urgency. How would someone know that unless they were actually monitoring Nancy Guthrie and seeing that she's now dead? It's also not in his interest to basically admit that she's dead because as soon as she's dead, the value of whatever ransom you can get drops significantly. So there's no investment, there's no benefit in doing that. So that's why this guy here, I think his name, Levin, I think his first name is Howard, over here, the head of TMZ, is speculating that this is someone who they feel pretty confident, in their personal opinion, actually knew what the situation was with Nancy Guthrie. And they say we took this to the FBI and we're trying to tell them, hey, and that this person said they wanted $100,000 for information that could help lead to her recovery of Nancy Guthrie. So the FBI wired $270 into the account, hoping that by wiring it, when the money would get collected, they could track it and figure out who and where these people were.
Coin account of the kidnappers. And we knew that. We were asked not to talk about that while all of this was going on, but they wanted to see if they could trace that person. They couldn't. As for this other person, the FBI took it seriously. They felt, at least in my communications with them, and I had numerous communications, they felt that this person might indeed know. For some reason, they never paid or never asked the Guthrie family to pay that person for information leading to the identity of the kidnappers and Nancy Guthrie's remains. I was always confused about that because I'm a skeptical guy, but there's something about those emails that made me believe that this guy may well have known who the kidnappers were. And the reason I say that is that initially he said, in the first letter, he said, time is of the essence, meaning you better hurry up. I can tell you where she is. But then the next day he wrote, time is no longer of the essence. If somebody is scamming and wants to get money, why would they say time is no longer of the essence? You want to say, no, time is still of the essence so you can get the money and make people feel that it's urgent to pay it. For him to say it's no longer of the essence, to me, it felt more truthful because he was taking away the urgency to pay the money. So I always had this gnawing sense that he might be indeed legit. But for some reason, the FBI never pulled the trigger to pay the money. So around 3 weeks ago, I called the FBI back. I hadn't heard from them in a while. And I said, look, it's been gnawing at me for a long time that there's something about this guy that felt legit. And I said, look, what if TMZ does a documentary and that we try and get in touch with this guy and even pay the money. And if he takes us to the location, then you get resolution. The Guthrie family gets resolution.
So he's like, hey, I smell a nice opportunity here where for the cost of $100,000, I can have exclusive access to videoing where everything is, helping and basically become the story. I can make TMZ the story here if I just invest $100,000. So maybe, and I think it's worthwhile, I think there's enough of a story here. $100,000 TMZ is not that much money. So I can basically make an investment of $100,000, figuring we're going to make a heck of a lot more if, in fact, we basically can scoop the FBI on the whereabouts of Nancy Guthrie's remains. And this would be a feather in our cap. So I basically went to the FBI and I was like, hey, do you mind if we pay the money and scoop you? Because we think this is going to scoop you.
And if he scams us, he scams us. But I just had this.
It's presented as a good deed, but this is purely capitalistic. Now, I don't think that that's evil per se. I don't. But it is. This is capitalism. This is not nobility. That's what I'm saying. You're reading a reformed convict as nobility. I'm telling you now, this is not in any way, shape, or form nobility. This is capitalism that's being presented as nobility. Oh, let's help them help the Guthrie family find peace. If this wasn't Savannah Guthrie's mother, it was just some other poor old lady who was kidnapped. They wouldn't care about that. They wouldn't care about that. No. This is Savannah Guthrie's mother, who was involved in an internationally known incident that they can now become focal players in. And this guy is scum. We saw that when Charlie Kirk was shot. We saw that from the reporters that he hires who was sitting there cheering Charlie Kirk's death. These people are slimy scum. There's no nobility here. There is no nobility. This is purely capitalistic. And he basically went to the FBI and said, hey, do you mind if we make the investment because we think that this might pan out into like a good return if in fact we have the right guy and this person is legit.
Real feeling that it might be real. But we didn't want to interfere with the investigation. So the contact I had at the FBI.
Because if we interfere with the investigation, in theory, we could be facing obstruction charges. So we didn't want to do that. We weren't going to go that far.
I said, look, that's interesting.
Which is something their lawyers probably said, well, you probably shouldn't be doing that without actually talking to the FBI because you could get in trouble for that.
Interesting. Let us get back to you. And I talked to him a few days later and he said, well, it's something they're looking into. And I thought, okay, fine. And then a week passed and I called back and left a message. And usually my messages were responsive, where they would call back. And I got nothing back. And I've called a half a dozen times since over the last couple of weeks. And I've gotten nothing back. For some reason, the FBI has gone radio silent on me. And we have had ongoing discussions because we've tried to be helpful over the many months now that this has been going on. But they've ghosted me. And I don't know what that's about.
Like I said, I know what it's about. Is that they actually sat there and they're like, why is TMZ doing this? Why are they offering to put up $100,000? It's, they make us look bad. They make it look like they're more effective at getting closure for the Guthrie family than we are. That's what this ultimately is about.
But I've kind of not talked about it, but at some point, I just want to put it out there that, this felt like maybe we could do some good. And for some reason, the FBI has gone radio silent. I don't understand it. I'm not suggesting that the FBI is doing anything wrong because they've really tried to solve this. But it's just curious to me that this one guy who has sent us, I think, around a dozen emails, It's just somebody that I felt knew something. But for whatever reason, this is all kind of evaporated into thin air.
So that's the story. But it certainly seems almost definite that Nancy Guthrie, unfortunately, is deceased. And I guess the only thing that we learn from this is that Joe doesn't understand your celebration of life. But in all other respects, what else do I have here? Dan Vicious says, "What's the Jew socialist versus Guy socialist stats? Good night, you heathens." The Jew socialist. I don't know that Dan Goldman is a full-on socialist, but reportedly Brad Lander is a full-on socialist. I really don't want to look very carefully at Brad Lander because I have a sneaky feeling that he's probably Jewish. I think they're probably both Jewish. Goldman is obviously Jewish. I mean, come on, Goldman. Yeah, that's definitely. I have a feeling that Brad Lander's cut. Just saying. I'm just saying. Just based on the name. Based on the name, my gut says Brad Lander's cut. Like, yeah. Hands One Pack says she did go to the greatest. She did do the greatest Irish goodbye ever. It's when you leave and tell no one. Oh, is that what it is? Are you making a joke here? Duckfat's saying they celebrate the life as the whole goal is to go to heaven. They made it. Oh, okay. All right. I guess that makes a little bit more sense to me. Other Gygax saying, so Trump is the only human that's not allowed to have an attorney. What basis can they go after his legal team? Oh, they find bases. Look at how they got John Eastman disbarred for giving him legal advice that they disagreed with and saying that he's promoting an insurrection. Look at how they went after his lawyers with respect to their raid on Mar-a-Lago and try getting them to turn on him. They do this all the time. So yeah, no, they're very, very evil. They're very, very evil, and they don't think he's entitled to counsel. They don't care about actual constitutional law unless it serves their purpose. Otherwise, Constitution is a nuisance for them. Irish wake stems from Celtic mythology. And whenever I see that word, I never know if I'm supposed to pronounce it as Celtic, like the Boston Celtics, or Celtic, the way it seems like it should be pronounced to me. But the family and friends guard the body so the cat, she, doesn't come and steal the soul. I never heard of the cat, she. The soul-stealing cat, she. I never heard of this at all. I'm learning so much tonight. That's very different from celebration of life that Duck Fat was describing. That's a whole different thing. Jay Schwabek says, Joe, what's really sad is that most people see a Hollywood Jew trying to make money off of someone's tragedy. This guy is slime and always has been. I told you he's slime. I said I had to pause in the middle and just remind everyone just how slimy he is. Yeah. It's Harvey Levin. That's his name. Harvey Levin. The guy we just saw. TMZ passed both the Ramsey on the emails. Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show co-host Savannah Guthrie, was last seen at her home on the evening of January 31st. She'd been dropped off by a family member around 9:50 p.m. Following morning, after she failed to appear for a scheduled church live stream, relatives checked on her and found signs of a struggle, including signs of forced entry and blood. Doorbell camera footage captured a masked intruder near the home around 2 a.m. on February 1st. Guthrie's phone and other belongings were left at the home. No arrests have been made. So there you go. I can email Cassandra McDonald there. I'm so inclined, but I don't really have much to say to Cassandra. I just thought I'd update you about that, even though it's not even. See, that's like a little bonus content type of thing that I just throw in here. Little bonus content. I almost had it in the title, and then, well, I found other stuff, which I was like, that I need that more. I need that more. What I did have in there was this. From Bill Asaley, one of the based attorneys, U.S. attorney out in California. Today, under the leadership of VP Vance and District Attorney, what's the term for DAG? It's a Deputy Attorney General. I thought he's temporary Attorney General and also Deputy Attorney General. Todd Blanche, we are announcing the 2026 National Health Care Fraud Takedown involving 455 defendants charged in connection with a $6.5 billion in alleged fraud. 450, just bring them all in. Bring them all in. This is like in the Dark Knight, right? When you have in the courtroom there, like all the defendants, that they all get called in from the mob. 455 defendants. Go get them. I like this. Let's go get them. One person arrested by FBI Los Angeles in the Central District of California was Jeannie Choi of Torrance. She's charged along with two other defendants, Oren David Shachar, 59 of Van Nuys, Abraham Shin of Corona, with a hospice fraud scheme that caused Medicare to pay nearly $27 million in fraudulent claims. Shachar allegedly exploited deceased Medicare beneficiaries by collecting their personal health data, medical records through meetings with surviving relatives. He then directed staff to use those identities to create false backdated hospice records, claiming evaluations and terminal certifications that never occurred. Shachar paid Choi and Shin between $1,000 and $3,000 for each deceased beneficiary fraudulently enrolled in hospice care. Shachar and Shin have pleaded not guilty and have a trial scheduled for August 11th. Choi is expected to make her initial appearance and be arraigned today in LA federal courts. Public health programs intended to help the elderly and sick are being undermined by fraudsters, threatening the financial stability of these programs for all Americans. Go get them. Lock them all up. Throw them in jail for decades and decades and snipe the money back. We are committed to rooting out the rampant fraud that has plagued our institutions for too long. Here's an arrest of one of them. I think that's Shin. I don't know who that is. We'll just call our mailbox. There you go. Give them all life in prison. But wait, we got more. 455 people charged. This is just the beginning. Let's hear from Todd Blanche.
In history. Thanks to the leadership of President Trump and the Vice President, in history. Thanks to the leadership of President Trump and the Vice President, and all those folks standing behind me and next to me, we are more united than ever before. This team is working tirelessly to take down fraudsters who steal from taxpayer-funded programs and prey on vulnerable Americans. When we talk about the team that's working on these cases, I want to give some context around that. There are 9 healthcare fraud strike forces that have been part of this effort. 57 U.S. attorneys' offices, 41 state attorney general's offices, not red states, not blue states, but both working together with the federal government. Multiple law enforcement agencies, including inspector generals, some of the agencies that are here with me on this stage. That's what we talk about when we say this is an all-government approach to combating fraud. It's not just the Department of Justice. It's not just HHS. It's all government, including working with our state and local partners. Today, we are announcing federal and state charges, all of which were charged or unsealed at some point over the past 2 weeks, the past 14 days, coordinated nationwide action. Since June 8th, we've charged 455 defendants across 56, like I said a minute ago, U.S. attorneys' offices, and 45 U.S. states and territories. As alleged in the various indictments, these individuals participated in healthcare fraud schemes involving over $6.5 billion in false claims submitted to Medicare, Medicaid, and other healthcare programs. The team around me will get into more specifics, but here are a few points that stand out. In one indictment, we're bringing charges against a corporate executive in Arizona in connection to over a $1 billion fraud involving unnecessary wound grafts. This alleged scheme costs Medicare over $1 million per patient. In total, our indictment charges 11 defendants for over $2 billion in fraudulent claims in connection to alleged wound care schemes. The indictment also alleges that
wound care of $1 million?
These individuals then used the taxpayer money to bankroll multi-million-dollar homes, luxury vehicles like a $135,000 Maserati, jewelry like an $865,000 Bulgari necklace, and to top it all off, to fund the construction of a $4.6 million hotel at a beach resort in the Philippines. We're taking back the money, the luxury cars, the jewelry, and these alleged fraudsters will face justice.
Go get them.
The coordinated actions of the past 2 weeks have resulted in over $182 million in cash and other assets seized, making clear our healthcare fraud enforcement efforts generate a significant return on investment for our taxpayers.
$6.5 billion out the door, 182 million back. What do you think is going to cost our government collectively to prosecute 455 people? Maybe we'll make money. Maybe. We should. I guess we could do it for under 100 million in theory.
In terms of Medicaid fraud, we're able to announce today the creation of the West Coast Strike Force and the deployment of additional prosecutors, allowing us to bring charges against a record-setting 295 defendants.
The real question is how are Minnesota politicians going to get any fundraising done now? How is Gavin Newsom going to get any fundraising done now? How are they going to get where are they going to get their money from?
Indictments allege over $518 million in Medicaid fraud between these individual defendants. You're going to hear from Director Patel in a moment, but apprehending alleged fraudsters remains a top priority of the Department of Justice and the FBI and our other law enforcement partners, including the DEA, who's here as well. At last year's takedown, a year ago, we charged multiple individuals for allegedly running a $10.6 billion medical equipment scheme using stolen identities to make false Medicare claims. Today, I can announce that earlier this month, we apprehended 2 of those defendants extradited from Estonia. Separately, over the weekend, we conducted the foreign transfer to custody of a defendant who is allegedly connected to another $3.7 billion in intended loss. I want to thank our tireless federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies who work hard every day and participated in these whole-of-government operations. This is just the beginning. Fraudsters can no longer rip off American taxpayers. If you seek to harm or cheat Americans, we will find you, seize any assets, and prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law.
All right, so basically we get the idea here that they're busting a lot of people for a lot of stolen debt, a lot of stolen fraud, particularly with respect to Medicare and hospice care. So that's good on Todd, right? And I think that, look, we want to see the big name. We all want to see the big name indictments. We all want to see that. But we're seeing this is a serious crackdown on fraud, which obviously, ever since everything started becoming public in Minnesota, fraud has been on the forefront of on the front burner of a hot need for which Americans feel needs to be addressed. And Todd Blanche is responding to that. So good on him for that.
Thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over now to Secretary Kennedy. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney General Blanche, and thank you to the White House Fraud Task Force, to Colin McDonald of the Justice Department, to Director Kash Patel of the FBI, to the HHS Office of Inspector General, Dr. Oz and the CMS team, and the investigators and law enforcement officers who brought these cases forward. President Trump directed this administration to confront healthcare fraud aggressively, and we are doing that.
I think this over here is Bill O'Saley, because I think of him as being very young. I don't know who the rest of these are. I assume they're all different ages.
The 2026 National Healthcare Fraud Takedown uncovered $6.5 billion in alleged fraud, the second largest amount ever charged in a single healthcare fraud operation. The Department of Justice charged a record number of Medicaid fraud defendants. More than 440 defendants now face charges. This effort brought together federal agencies, state partners, and U.S. territories across the United States. 18 of the participating states, as Attorney General Blanche pointed out, were blue states with Democratic governors. Fraud does not recognize party lines, and neither does accountability. Today's cases include the largest Medicaid fraud enforcement action in the Department of history, 165 defendants charged with allegedly submitting more than $200 million in false claims to Medicaid.
And I think the reason you go after so many people at once is because you figure they might be associated with each other, and you sort of there's two different reasons I can think of why you would do this. One is to make a big splash, because this clearly, you see a headline of 455 defendants and $6.5 billion. That's a lot more likely to get podcasters like myself to throw this up there and talk about it and call attention to the fine work of Todd Blanche than if there's just one after another, which are just saying 3 million here, 10 million here, 107 million there. Because it starts feeling repetitious. So this way, I think you making a nice big splash, it grabs headlines, people talk about it. So that's one reason. That's what the cynical person would say is the reason that they do it like this, is for their own self-promotion. The logistical reason why you would do this is because in case, they actually, you don't want them to scurry. So especially if you're trying to seize assets, you want to try and grab as many of them as possible, cast as wide a net as possible, and try and seize their assets all at once before they basically flee the country with their bank accounts. So that's another reason why. That's what if you want to give the benefit of the doubt to the DOJ, that's what you would say is the reason that you go after so many different defendants who are obviously, many of them had nothing to do with each other. But if you just start dropping one indictment after another, it's like basically firing a shot into the pool to kill one fish when there's thousands of them out there. You're just making them all. So that would be a reason to do this. That's a logistical reason to go after so many people at once. Obviously, you can't prosecute all 455 at once. You're not going to. They're in different jurisdictions. These are all different cases across the country. But that's the reason you would do this dragnet, is so that you can try and seize as many of these defendants and their assets as possible.
These schemes did not target government programs. They targeted the American taxpayer. They stole money from workers who pay taxes, from families who depend on Medicare and Medicaid. and from patients who trusted their healthcare professionals to be serving their health interests when it turns out they were just chasing money from our agencies. The allegations in these cases are particularly disturbing. Some defendants allegedly ordered medically unnecessary tests. Others prescribed products that patients did not need. Some allegedly fueled opioid addiction to increase their own revenue. In certain cases, patients allegedly died while believing they were receiving legitimate medical care from providers who only viewed them as billing opportunities.
Those are people who should be prosecuted for murder. The ones who can get that on, I want to see murder charges on that. Because you're basically recklessly playing around with someone's life, maybe manslaughter, criminally negligent manslaughter, because the objective is not to see them die per se, but they're criminally reckless manslaughter. That's what I would think you should be charging these people with. If you're telling me that they're prescribing, bad treatments and that's leading to people dying, why wouldn't you charge that? I assume that they would.
These defendants did not simply break the law. They violated the trust that patients place in medical professionals. One of today's indictments.
J.H. Schwalbeck says, Joey, women get done tonight. Apparently, Mr. Schwalbeck here has a very, very active evening plan. So go get him, J.H. Can you call up your buddy Netanyahu and please have him put Hollywood Jews and Hezbollah on the same list? YouTube spelling it sucks. Well, I don't know what on earth Hezbollah could possibly be. I know what Hollywood Jews are. They don't let you write Hezbollah? Really? Really? Yeah. So, well, good luck to the women in your vicinity. Joe, I didn't say women get done. I meant when we get done. Oh, okay. There's that too. Okay. All right. That clarifies that. That's a lot. If you had problems there, you could have gone to locals. I was checking locals. You told me that there's local shekel, and all I see is Renee Collins giving me a yay there. So I was looking for locals. If you're struggling with, getting a Hezbollah out there, JH. Anyway, let's see if there's any questions out there for the from the fine people. Who's this, Bill Saley? I think this is. I want to see if this was Bill Saley.
Restore integrity to the programs that millions of Americans rely on for their care. Thank you, and I now want to introduce Colin.
Oh, it's Colin.
Colin McDonald from the Justice Department.
McDonald.
Thank you, Secretary Kennedy. Today's record healthcare fraud charges and arrests makes clear that there is no case too big, no scheme too complex, and no hiding place too remote for our fraud fighting team.
Well, we only got 180 million out of $6 billion, so I'm sure a lot of it was spent. Should we hear from Kash Patel? Let's hear from Kash. I think that comes out of nowhere there. I didn't even know Kash was there.
I'll now turn the podium over to a critical partner in our fight against fraud, Director Kash Patel.
Okay.
Thank you. America, you should take a look. You should take a look at what leadership from the White House and the President Trump's prioritization to go after and combat fraud looks like. America should take a look at the Vice President's task force and the initiative by the Justice Department here under AG Todd Blanche and AAG Colin McDonald. Fraud is no longer being tolerated, it is not being put up with, and you've seen the staggering numbers that in just the last 2 weeks, That's all we're here to talk about today. It's just the last 2 weeks of fraud, of perpetrators and criminals who have been arrested and apprehended from around the world, totaling over $6 and $7 billion in fraud, in money stolen from the American people. Our precious taxpayer dollars that are supposed to service our seniors and our kids were being stolen outright by individuals who thought they could get away with it. But thanks to the Trump administration and the Vice President's task force and the White House task force and Department of Justice's courageous prosecutors, we have now been able to charge a record number of individuals. I just want to go over a couple of things. One such individual, the FBI is responsible for what we call foreign transfer of custodies, FTOCs. Last week, the FBI executed 4 FTOCs on 4 separate continents in 24 hours. We did this because we had the backing of the White House and the U.S. government and the Department of Justice to go out and apprehend criminals wherever they are. One such individual related to fraud was apprehended in Turkey thanks to the relationships and partnerships between Ambassador Tom Barrack and the Turkish government. Mr. Hilmi was arrested after perpetrating a multi-billion-dollar fraud in Turkey, apprehended and transferred back to the United States of America while he faced prosecution. I also want to highlight the Vice President's brilliant idea to put together a most wanted fraudsters list. The FBI has always had our top 10 most wanted fugitive list. But in 2 weeks ago, I think we were all in Ohio where we announced our most wanted fraudsters list. And in just the last 2 weeks, thanks to the help of the American people in the world, we have apprehended 2 of the most wanted fraudsters already. One of those individuals, Herbert Leon Kimball, was apprehended in the Philippines. He's an American citizen. He had been bilking, allegedly, the system against Medicaid for billions of dollars since 2014, $1.2 billion in telemedicine specifically alone. That individual was apprehended in the Philippines and transported back to the United States of America, where he will now face justice. This is the reach of the United States government. This is the reach of this team, the interagency and state and local partners focused on one mission and one mission alone: to combat fraud and make sure the American public's precious taxpayer dollars go where they're supposed to go, to the American people that need them the most, and not to these criminals who are stealing from us day in and day out. Those days are over, and this should showcase to the world the length that we will go as an interagency and as a task force to apprehend and arrest and bring to justice anyone who steals our dollars that are meant for our most vulnerable citizens. We're also going to ask what we did in Ohio a couple of weeks ago, and we'll circulate it on social media later. We're adding 2 more individuals to the most wanted fraudster list. I said then, and I've said it before, the American people in the world are our best sources of information. There is no such thing as bad information. So if you have any information on Khalid Sitari, who is wanted for a $547 million genetic testing scheme, and we believe to be hiding in the United Arab Emirates, call 1-800-CALL-FBI, 1-800-CALL-FBI.
I don't have
Let
any
us know.
information about him.
You saw what we did in just 2 weeks by apprehending 2 of the most wanted fraudsters. With your help, we will apprehend the rest of them. The last one is Emily Tai, who's also wanted in connection with the genetic testing scheme for allegedly stealing $90 million. And she was previously on an ankle monitor and fled, we believe, to Vietnam. So if the American public or anyone in the world has information on Emily Tai, please call 1-800-CALL-FBI. We need your information. We need your help. And you have now seen what we can collectively do as an interagency under the Attorney General's brilliant leadership and the prioritization at the White House, that fraud will not be tolerated, that fraud perpetrators will be apprehended, not just across the United States of America, but from the 4 corners of the world. So we plead with you to give us any and all information that you have. And again, the only type of bad information is the one that we don't receive from you. So please call 1-800-CALL-FBI with any information on any of the fraudsters on our most wanted list. And this should be a clear message to the world that the FBI, along with our interagency partners, are not tolerating fraud anymore. And we will chase them down just like we chase down terrorists, narco traffickers, gangbangers, and those that wish to do harm to our communities, because this type of harm is equally as harmful to our most vulnerable. Thank you. And I now turn it over to our brilliant partner, Dr. Oz.
Heard how many records have been broken by.
I want to see if we get any questions here. I don't really need to hear from every attorney general who weighed in here. I don't know. Well, there we go. He's back at the podium now.
To justice. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thanks everybody. We'll take a couple questions on what we're here for today. If you want to hear from somebody in particular on stage, just feel free to.
Before we get to that, Medicare patients are the most abused patients overall. It's tragic, the neglect and lack of timely care. Indeed, it really is. It's pathetic. Joe Stir, we need perp walks. They need to bring these people on The View. Show them in front of Congress. Or face the nation and arrest them in front of Tim Walz. He should be in the photo. We need to find a way to rename this fraud apprehension thing something that is an acronym that spells out Walz. That is the task I'm setting out for you. It's a tough task. I know. It's a very tough task. But I need to suggest to it should be called the Walz operation. Better yet would be the Tim Walz. If you get an acronym for Tim Walz, the Tim Walz, the Operation Tim Walz. It's gonna be, and I want it spelled with a Z. Don't do the WALLS. No. It's got to be spelled with a Z, which makes it a little bit more of a challenge. I understand, but that's the gauntlet I'm throwing down for you now tonight. Something with a Z. We can get Tim Walz name the acronym. The Operation Tim Walz, trying to collect fraud. That's what we need. In lieu thereof, we can go with Operation Gavin. Give me what you got. Operation Newsom. I hope one of the questions to reporters there is you couldn't come up with some sort of acronym for Tim Walz when you named your operation? You couldn't? Ask Rock. Find something.
Lead with that. Any questions? Alex.
The wakeful anti-larceny zeitgeist. I don't know, Derna. I don't know. I don't think that's gonna work. I don't think that's gonna work.
Last year's announcement, it was $14.6 billion of intended fraud loss. This year, you said $6.5 billion. I'm wondering, can you explain the discrepancy there? Is this as a result of fewer?
That sounds like a good question. Let me hear that one more time.
On what we're here for today, if you want to hear from somebody in particular on stage, just feel free to lead with that. Any questions? Alex.
Yeah, last year's announcement, it was $14.6 billion of intended fraud loss. This year, you said $6.5 billion. I'm wondering, can you explain the discrepancy there? Is this as a result of fewer prosecutions, less money, or is, as Dr. Oz mentioned, the idea that you guys are catching this before the money goes out the door? Is that having an impact?
Yeah, look, I think it's a combination of everything you just said. It's a combination. There were a couple cases last year that made that number that high, and so we said this year we have been doing an extraordinary amount of work. And when I say we, I'm not saying the Department of Justice. I'm saying everybody on the stage and the folks in the back. And part of that work includes turning off the spigot. That's right. And so it includes more detection early on that stops the claims from even going anywhere near a payment being issued. And that's part of the reason. And so, yeah, we had a great year last year, too, when it comes to combating fraud. If you are an American taxpayer, you should be extraordinarily happy with what you see on the stage right now. Not only because of what we're talking about today, but because of what we were talking about a year ago when we had a similar day. And I expect that you're going to hear more from us over the next several months, because this, for the first time, at least in modern history, everybody is working together. When we talked about state AGs, we're talking about Republicans, Democrats, we're talking about New York, we're talking about Florida. This is a chronic problem that was actually hurting so many people, not only financially, but thievery, but also hurting, like you heard today, the stories. So look, I think we had a great year last year, right? A phenomenal year this year, and I expect there'll be more happening over the next year, the rest of the year.
Off topic, if I could.
No off topics. Next question. And we got a lot of people here for this reason. So we got a lot of people here for this reason and they're giving up their time. So next question. Yes.
He gets to ask his question on the topic that he chooses. We're not here as spectators. So.
Are states with both Democratic and Republican leaders working with federal authorities to identify these cases or investigate and provide facts?
I think, Colin, you want to handle that?
I heard that comment from someone there. He gets to ask the question that he wants to ask. No, that's not true. That's not true. I'm not here to answer your questions about what I ate for breakfast or some other nonsense that you want to ask me about some other case that's got nothing to do with why we're here. We're here for something for A. So no, I decide what questions I answer. Go leave. Find some other press conference to go to where someone's willing to be bullied by you, you loser.
Yes, thank you for the question. And just to clarify, last year, which was a great result by our department, there were 324 defendants that were charged in last year's takedown. Today, 455 in the last 14 days have been charged with fraud offenses. And to your question about the state participation, we have last year, I believe there were 13 states that participated with us in our takedown. And this year we are in the high 40s of those who have come to the table to add their resources to come work with us, because this truly is a national problem that demands a national response. And that's really driven by the White House fraud task force, which is bringing everybody together to say, hey, if we don't solve it, no one will. And folks are coming to the table to ensure that we do this work against the fraudsters better than we've ever done it before.
That is impressive.
In the case involving the basketball player who died, and I know Dr. Oz, you were highlighting that, was that resolved and solved through sort of old-fashioned law enforcement work, or were there techniques and tools that the Justice Department or other agencies employed that resulted in that $89 million fraud being detected?
There was boots on the ground. The individuals went, they got the records, they could tell how many seconds transpired between when the actual EKG was sent to the doctor in question and when the readout was delivered, so saying that it was normal. And again, I'll speak as a heart physician. There's no way you could miss this diagnosis. This child's heart on autopsy was massive. And if it's 2.5 times bigger than your fist, it looks like that. And then the child had echocardiogram and EKG, also had Dopplers of his carotids and groins. And this doctor was practicing in multiple states, which is one of the things doctors do to hide their path. They can sneak around. And the mom is in Florida. And it's really tragic. And I just want to highlight, this is a dead child is a dead child, red state, blue state, it doesn't matter. And that's why I think so many states are participating, because Medicaid is a program that is run by the states, and having them all on board, I think, is a reinforcing element to the White House.
I want to hear the story that he said. We'll come back to that in a minute.
Are you getting cooperation from the healthcare corporations in terms of detecting this fraud? What's your relationship with the healthcare corporations? Are these one-offs that are just individuals that are kind of, sneaking through the getting around the controls, or are the companies helping to detect this fraud?
It's a good question. Who's the best to answer that? You want to call?
Yes, we have great working relationships with healthcare corporations who are required to be alert to instances of fraud across their programs. And we collaborate with them to make sure that we can illuminate fraudsters across the healthcare portfolio. And we encourage every healthcare corporation to come work with us to root out those who are seeking to defraud the American people by exploiting our healthcare programs.
Mr. Attorney General, will you take one off-topic question?
No.
You got to take an off-topic.
Any other questions?
Sir?
All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming. We appreciate it. Thank you.
He's like, no, I'm not taking any more stupid questions. I do want to hear that basketball thing that I was just talking about.
Able to just take that out of what's being stolen from Medicare would double the life expectancy of the Medicare Trust Fund. It massively changes what people pay when we tolerate this kind of fraud. The second big message, again, is that—
That's a great point. That's a great point. Cracking down on fraud ultimately helps bring down health insurance costs.
Costs matter. They matter a lot. And they're measured oftentimes in ways that we can put on signs. But the actual cost is that of human health and the lives of humans hurt by these fraudsters, because they don't care about you. If they're willing to steal your money when you're down and out and struggling and you're vulnerable, they will definitely take your health and take your life if that's required. Today's actions are the results of months of painstaking collaboration by law enforcement agencies represented on this stage. The U.S. Attorney, of course, the White House Anti-Fraud Task Force, the FBI, HHS, OIG, CMS colleagues, all of us worked tirelessly towards one goal, making sure that people who steal from Medicare and Medicaid face real consequences, because it scares away future perpetrators. As Secretary Kennedy mentioned, the general approach has been slow, meandering, and non-consequential for fraudsters, which is why after COVID, they rushed into this space. CMS's role in this partnership has fundamentally changed because of the nature of the fraudsters. We now use techniques that historically were never thought of. Instead of just flagging problems, we build cases. Under the leadership of Secretary Kennedy, we've created a stellar team at CMS. Fraud fighters, including Kim Brandt and Janine Ugo and others who brilliantly reinvent how we catch these criminals. And by the time our law enforcement partners are ready to move, we aim to hand them a file that is already complete, already ready, supported by payment suspensions and provider revocations, funding deferrals, real-time fraud detection that never existed before. Now, the numbers tell the story. I'm going to give you two really important ones. The first is, in the first quarter of last year, we revoked billing privileges for fraudsters of 106 providers. Pretty good result, we thought, at the time. This same period this year, the first quarter, we made 1,400 revocations. That's a 40% increase over last year. So 40% more revocations. We also have payment suspensions where we just don't pay the bill because we don't think it's legitimate. And this is impressive. The first half of this year, we made 1,000 Medicare payment suspensions. 1,000. That's a lot of people. Nearly 800, by the way, from one state, California. For a similar period last year, we made 219 suspensions. So a 500% increase in payment suspensions because we're using tools now that historically had been used marginally. Now, these efforts brand all kinds of new tools for Medicare and Medicaid. The fraud war room that has been put together is a purpose-built tool to identify, track, and neutralize bad actors, often from foreign countries, much more effectively than the old system. The formula is straightforward. The DOJ brings a prosecutorial firepower, law enforcement brings investigative tools, CMS brings data, the analytics, we use administrative muscle to push things through, and we are closing loopholes that fraudsters have avoided and been exploiting for years.
It really sounds like they actually have their act together. They sound as if they're like, this is a serious initiative.
Those days are over. Fraudsters, your time is up. Now, speaking of fraudsters, I want to highlight an important case that drives home what everyone on the stage really feels deeply in our heart. Kim, if you can be, this is Kim Brandt that I mentioned earlier. Just bring that poster of the young man up. This young man has been referred to already. His name is Caden Francis. I spoke to his mother last night. Kim, just bring it up if you don't mind. Looks like a pretty good athlete. This young man was involved in a scheme run by fraudsters, including doctors, a cardiovascular testing company whose medical director approved EKGs and echocardiograms, as was mentioned earlier, by Colin, in as little as 11 seconds. That was this kid's case. The EKG was taken. His parents were told he was fine. The doctor, we believe, from the moment he got the image to said it was fine was 11 seconds. The parents who had been marketed to, claiming that their kid might be at risk, were therefore told the kid was fine, when in fact nothing had been done. The October EKG was read as normal. The kid was dead a month later. Now, I talked to the mom, of course, still in pain. The family was told the tests were normal. Unfortunately, and despite all these internal communications that we revealed, which acknowledged by the company that they knew these were not normal tests and they had done something terribly wrong, they kept doing it. So that kid was hurt irreparably, passed away because nothing was done about these fraudsters, and they went right after it. Their company billed over $90 million while a child was buried by their family.
Wow. Wow. So they're basically claiming that they're doing legitimate EKGs when they're doing jack all. Wow. Wow. See, this, like I said, these are things to me. This should be manslaughter. That should be manslaughter. This is not just thievery. This is manslaughter. You can't play around with people's health like this. It's reckless endangerment resulting in death. This is not something that's like shocking that someone would die as a result of you doing your stupid, bogus EKG testing. That's insane. That's insane. This is something that's predictable. If not with this particular victim, a different victim. This should be murder charges to me.
No remorse whatsoever. Caden's mother wanted me to give you a quote. I'm going to read it exactly as she gave it to me. The doctor is as bad as any greedy criminal who is killing people in the streets.
Yes.
I hope he rots in jail so no one else is hurt.
Well, I hope he goes to jail for murder.
But my son will never come back to me.
For not murder, but manslaughter. He's not intentionally trying to kill this particular kid, but it's criminally reckless manslaughter.
That's the real human costs that we were speaking of on the stage.
That's powerful.
Julian, the mother, shared the autopsy and revealed that her son's heart was 2.5 times normal. Instead of being this big, I'm a heart surgeon. That's a normal size heart, size of your fist, 2.5 times larger than that. There is no way you could miss that, except they didn't care. That's why mom runs them to rot in hell. This is not a diagnostic company. It's a predatory scheme dressed up in medical clothing, and we're going to treat it as such.
I hope they charge him with murder. I hope they charge him. What was the kid's name? Caden?
We've got a couple big breakthroughs. I mean, put them in some of these numbers to at least give you some confidence that the pay and chase model that.
All right, I'm not gonna. The numbers start bleeding together when we're hearing them all. They start bleeding together and they stop having any sort of meaning. That story has meaning. Horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible people. Dr. Oz is bringing it. I'm gonna ask Grok about that kid. Hey, Grok, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. What's on your mind?
That story that was covered in the press conference with Todd Blanche, where Dr. Oz was talking about that kid basketball player who had an enlarged heart that was misdiagnosed as being totally fine. What was the name of the victim there?
They didn't name him publicly in the press conference or the
Yes,
DOJ
they did.
release.
Yes, they did. They said Caden something.
Caden Francis. That's the name Dr. Oz gave in the press conference. He even spoke to the kid's mom the night before.
I told you. It's like the smartest retard you've ever spoken to. They didn't name him. Oh, yeah, Caden Francis. That's the name he wants. They didn't name him. Okay. What's the name of the diagnostic company that ran the EKG on him that was a bogus EKG?
Cardiovascular Testing Services, or sometimes called Cardiovascular Healthcare Associates. That's the company Finkelstein owned and ran the scheme through. They were the ones pushing the unnecessary EKGs and screenings on student athletes, rubber stamping the results without actually looking at them.
Criminal charges have been brought against Finkelstein and Cardiovascular Testing Services.
Yes, Finkelstein was indicted on conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud and wire fraud, plus substantive healthcare fraud charges. The two companies he owned, Cardiovascular Testing Services, PA, and Cardiovascular Healthcare Associates, PA, were the vehicles used to submit the $89 million in bogus claims, but the charges were brought against him personally, not the companies themselves.
Why no manslaughter charges with respect to the death of Caden Francis?
It's a federal case, so the DOJ charged him with what they could prove beyond reasonable doubt: healthcare fraud and conspiracy. Those are easier to nail down. false diagnoses, rubber stamping EKGs in seconds, billing for unnecessary tests. Manslaughter requires proving criminal recklessness or negligence that directly caused the death. Even though the indictment calls out the specific case, Caden's abnormal EKG signed normal in seconds, followed by his death 24 days later, they didn't go there. Could be tough causation, or they prioritized the massive $89 million fraud scheme over one death. Local prosecutors in Texas or wherever Caden lived could have filed state manslaughter charges, but it doesn't look like they did. The feds went hard on the money and the pattern instead.
Is there a civil suit going against Dr. Finkelstein?
Not that I can find. There's no public record of a civil wrongful death or malpractice lawsuit filed by Caden's family against Jason Finkelstein yet. The federal criminal case is moving forward on the fraud charges, but a civil suit from the family hasn't surfaced in news reports or court filings. Families sometimes wait for the criminal case to play out before filing civil claims. If one gets filed, it'll probably make headlines fast, given the press conference attention.
Wrongful death charge, you have to go only 1 year to bring. You can't sit there waiting for criminal charges to play out. That's not right. Wrongful death has to be within 1 year. So, no. Okay, that was a pretty retarded answer because wrongful death charges have to be a wrongful death civil suit has to be brought within 1 year.
You're right. I got that wrong. Texas gives families 2 years from the date of death for a wrongful death suit, not 1. The kid died in 2024,
Okay,
so the family still has plenty of time. As of right now, no civil lawsuit has been filed against Finkelstein that shows up in public records or news. Doesn't mean they won't. People often wait to see how the criminal case goes before pulling the trigger on a civil one.
When in 2024 did he die?
Late October 2024. The tests on KF were done around October 17th. Finkelstein signed off on them on October 26th, and the kid died about 24 days after the test during basketball practice. So we're looking at roughly mid-November 2024. It's horrible. Kimmy's coming up with total initiative of medical and welfare apprehension of larceny as zeros. Medical and welfare apprehension of. We gotta do something. We gotta do better with that Z. Wenker against laws. What kind of world are we living in where we can no longer trust people named Finkelstein to provide excellent medical care? See, I knew it was coming. As soon as I heard the name Finkelstein, I was like, here we go. 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 I knew it. I already saw the comments. I saw the comments. Where was it? Up here. I saw the comments. I don't know if it'd be felony murder.
I don't think it'd be. Maybe it is. Maybe it is a Somalia case. You don't know. You don't know. I saw this one and I was just like, yeah. I knew this was coming. As soon as I heard Finkelstein, I was like, yeah, I know it's coming. All right. I'm just trying to keep you all informed. The next thing I know. The next thing I know. I'm covering this stuff. Why? Why? Just why? That's the most shocking thing of all, really. A banker, yeah, but we trust doctors. He's not really a doctor per se, probably. He's probably some entrepreneur. I don't know that you have to be a doctor to come out with that thing. Who knows? Should we ask if Finkelstein's a doctor? Let's ask if Finkelstein's a doctor. God. Let's just get it over with. Is Finkelstein a doctor?
Yes, he is. Jason Finkelstein is a board-certified cardiologist and MD. He's licensed in 48 states and was running a cardiovascular testing company when all this went down.
It could still be Somalian. You don't know. Let's do some more digging. What part of Somalia is Dr. Finkelstein from?
He's from Long Island, New York. Born and raised there. Went to Binghamton University, then medical school in Grenada. No connection to Somalia at all.
Grenada? If you tell me he went to medical school in Grenada, that tells me he's not someone who is, he's not a real Finkelstein.
Fair enough. Grenada medical schools like St. George's are often called Caribbean mills for a reason. A lot of people use them as a backdoor when they can't get into a U.S. med school. That said, plenty of legitimate doctors come out of there and pass their boards. It doesn't automatically make him a fraud, but it does raise eyebrows when the guy running a shady volume testing scheme came through that route.
I don't know. My gut says this guy's last name is something like Fitzgerald, and he thought, if I change my name to Finkelstein, that's going to work better for me. Maybe people won't notice I went to school in Grenada. I got a hard time believing his name's really, really Finkelstein.
Nah, that theory doesn't hold up. His full name is Jason Scott Finkelstein, born and raised on Long Island, New York. He went to Binghamton University, then St. George's in Grenada, and he openly talks about being the first doctor in his family. Everything checks out as a Jewish kid from New York who didn't get into a U.S. med school and took the Caribbean route. No name change, no Fitzgerald hiding behind it.
All right. All right. Fine. I still want to go to jail. Oh, God. How can an MD be licensed in 48 states? What? I don't know. It's really bizarre to me. A doctor from Grenada. He went to school in Grenada. That's like a high school dropout gets his MD from Grenada. There shouldn't be any Finkelsteins in Grenada. All right. Can we talk about a Somalian? Can we go back to talk about Somalians? Let's go back to talk about Somalians specifically. I want to talk to you about Ilhan Omar. That's Somalian. That's what I'm saying. No one would go. That's why I thought. That's what I thought. Well, anyhow. Let's talk about a notorious Somalian by the name of Ilhan Omar. Remember how she changed her whole accounting as far as the valuation of her company? Well, apparently it's not only her companies which had a downgrade in their valuation. No. We also have penthouse to outhouse. Poor Ilhan Omar now claims erstwhile millionaire hubby made as little as $200 last year. Not 200,000. No. $200.00. That's what he is claiming now. Oh, this is totally not fraud. Totally not fraud. What the hell? Totally not at all fraud. Okay. Scandal-scarred Representative Ilhan Omar and her hubby have gone from the penthouse to the poorhouse. The husband, a Minnesota squad firebrand, who once valued his venture capital and wine empire at up to $30 million, now claims to be pocketing as little as $200 a year. The embattled socialist claimed hubby Tim Minette made no income last year from his main business, Rose Lake Capital, according to her newly released 2025 financial disclosure report. The only money Minette, who has nearly 2 decades of experience in D.C., earned last year is a meager $200 to $1,000 from his defunct California-based wine business, Est Crew, which sold bottles such as The Devil's Lie before going belly up in April. And we have no way of knowing that they actually sold a single bottle. Omar claimed the total value of the company's assets was between $20,000 and $125,000 for 2025, and their credit card and student loan debt hovered between $30,000 and $100,000, putting their net worth at a negative $80,000 to $95,000, according to the reports. The head-scratching financial disclosures come after the couple in 2024 reported sudden ballooning wealth from close to nothing to between $5 and $30 million, sparking intense public scrutiny. That spurred a congressional investigation into Omar's finances, just as a massive social services fraud scheme involving the Somali community in her district was blowing up. In response, Somalia-born Omar filed an amended 2024 financial disclosure in March, listing the value of Minette's ownership stakes in both businesses at $0. It's so many mistakes done by this accountant who must have graduated from the Minnesota Leering Center there. She chalked up the discrepancy on an accounting error. Of course she did. Can I just tell you, this is the cheesiest looking wine label I've seen in a while. This is just pathetic. Est Crew sold wines like The Devil's Lie, a Malbec, before filing for dissolution in April. His Rose Lake bio says Tim Minette is an entrepreneur, business owner. I'm gonna try my new circle thing. Look at this. Let's try it. Isn't this? Tim Minette is an entrepreneur, business owner, longtime consultant to some of the most innovative political campaigns of the past 15 years, and he's worth $200 a year. For the low price of $300, you can have him walk away. Throughout his career, he has raised over $100 million for a wide array of organizations and candidates, including efforts to organizations including. This is just poorly written. Maybe he wrote this. Maybe that's why he's getting $200 a year. Look at. Throughout his career, he's raised over $100 million for a wide array of organizations and candidates, including efforts for organizations, including Angelina Jolie's Global Action for Children, the SEIU's Change That Works, the Woodruff Foundation, Alliance for Justice, and has fought hard to leverage those resources to bring about substantial change to the corridors of power. Tim has been at the forefront of the intersection of business. Can't be at the forefront of an intersection. There's no such thing. Who the hell wrote this idiot? This is written by another graduate of the Minneapolis Leering Center. Tim has been at the forefront of the intersection of business, advocacy, faith, culture, politics, and his extensive God. God. Well, you're just going to have to believe me on the rest of this. Huh? What? I got big for a second. I don't know what's happening. Really? Really? Tim's been at the forefront of the intersection of business advocacy, faith, culture, and politics, and his extensive network includes deep ties into Hollywood through his philanthropic work, and has represented the United States in more than a dozen countries abroad. He's represented the United States. Oh my God, this guy is talented. I need to get this thing bigger. You need to. Let's try this. There we go. There we go. He's represented the United States in more than a dozen countries abroad. Wow. I wonder if was that like in is that in skeet shooting? Was that in snowboarding? What was he representing the United States in? What the hell was he representing the United States? I want to know more about this. I need to know much more about this. He's represented the United States in more than a dozen countries abroad. I don't even understand what this could possibly. I'm trying to figure out what they could even possibly do. Was it in figure skating? Well, wait, no. He's got the Somalia roots, so maybe it was in gymnastics. Tim. Thank God. He's representing the United States. That's very impressive. A northern New Jersey native. Oh, he's from my little town here. Tim is an alum of SUNY. So that's State University of New York at Albany, and the University of KwaZulu-Natal in Durban, South Africa, which is where he met his bride-to-be. He and his wife split their time between D.C. and Minneapolis, Minnesota, and have 4 children and a dog. But do they have 4 children and a dog? Do they have 4? She has 4 children and a dog. They're like they just spend their time. They don't mention who his wife is. He and his wife have 4 children and a dog. I need to know more about the 4 children and the dog. We need to talk about Tim Minette and his 4 children and a dog. Does he have 4 kids?
No, he doesn't. Tim Minette has 1 son from his previous marriage to Beth Minette. That's it. No 4 kids, and nothing about a dog in any reports I've seen.
I'm going to share a link with you here and ask you to just fact check.
I'm ready.
This is what they're saying is about Tim Minette. Just click on the link there and look at the Rose Lake bio for Tim Minette and see if you could read that.
The Rose Lake website is down. The team page and main site both 404 now, probably taken offline amid all the scrutiny. From everything public, Tim Minette has 1 son from his first marriage to Beth Minette. That's consistently reported across sources, including his divorce filing. No record of 4 children or a dog. If the bio you're looking at says otherwise, it's likely wrong or satirical.
Well, the bio says he's a northern New Jersey native, an alum of State University of New York at Albany, and the University of KwaZulu-Natal in Durban, South Africa. It says he and his wife split their time between Washington, D.C. and Minneapolis, Minnesota, and have 4 children and a dog.
Most of that bio is accurate. He is a northern New Jersey native, went to SUNY Albany, and did attend the University of KwaZulu-Natal in Durban, South Africa. The part that's wrong is the family. He has 1 son from his first marriage. He and Ilhan Omar do not have 4 children together. The 4 children and a dog line is false. It mixes in Omar's kids from her previous marriage or is just made up fluff.
So she has 3 kids?
Yes, Ilhan Omar has 3 kids. All 3 are from her first marriage to Ahmed Elmi. She does not have any biological children with Tim Minette.
How many children does she have with her brother?
None. Ilhan Omar has 3 children, and all 3 are with Ahmed Abdisalan Hirsi, not with Ahmed Elmi, and not with her brother. The claim that Elmi is her brother is an unproven allegation that's been floating around for years. Omar has always denied it, and no charges were ever filed over it. The kids were born before and during her time with Hirsi.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then we see Omar and Minette getting together when he worked for a 2018 campaign. He seems like such a con man, this dude. He's such a con man. Despite the businesses reportedly being worth nothing, Rose Lake Capital still generated income between $100,000 and $1 million, and the wine business between $2,500 and $5,000 that year, according to amended disclosure. Voters see right through the corrupt lies of Ilhan Omar. Republican National Committee spokeswoman Delaney Bomar told the Post, Omar has spent her entire career covering up Democrat-enabled fraud that cost taxpayers billions, so it's no surprise she would do the same for her husband. Minette, 44, launched Rose Lake Capital in 2022 with his longtime business partner, Will Haler, another Democratic operative. The pair met working for Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison in 2012 when he was running for re-election. Ellison was caught on tape being bribed by Somali fraudsters, a claim he rejected, saying he took the meeting in good faith, gave up that house seat in 2018 to make way for Omar, a move Haler has taken credit for orchestrating. Surprisingly, Omar's office did not return the Post request for comment. So there you go. Omar manages to find herself back in the news again. Oh my God, I've been here for like 2 hours and 20 minutes. Who knew? Who knew? I didn't know. Why didn't you guys tell me? I'm working overtime? We didn't hit our goal. I'm working overtime. That's not very, that's not very me. Like, what's happening? What is happening? There's one more thing I wanted to cover real quick, just because I want to be thorough with you. Yesterday, we talked about vandalism at the reflecting pool and how Democrats just can't have anything nice. Apparently, there's some evidence of that now, as reported by Nick Sorter, sharing out this link. Thank you, Nick Sorter. I should also, by the way, tell you all, before I do this, let me do one thing here, because first, if you haven't hit like and subscribe yet, I would be most obliged if you would just do me that courtesy. It's an appropriate thing to do. It's a nice thing to do. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. There's 600 of you watching right now, and I got like, I don't know, 23 likes or something like that. That's not cool. That's really not cool. And then I wonder why my numbers are going down. The other thing I want to remind you about is to check out our merch shop at goodlogic-shop.com. www.fourthwall.com. Link is in the description. It's pinned in the chat. We got mugs. We got Following's Not a Cult. It's a full zip hoodie, not a tracksuit because we don't have tracksuits. We got tumblers because apparently women like Stanley Cups. Who knew? And more. And more. I told my shop my shop girl. What do you call someone who runs my store here? I said we need NYPD hats, and I need to sort of like make it like Good Logic oriented. So I was thinking like maybe I put my signature on it. Well, then I was thinking it'd actually be cool if I used my actual signature. If you could actually see my signature. But then I was wondering, I don't know if people would prefer Good Logic or Joe Neerman, like how I normally would sign my name. I'm not sure how to sign it. I was thinking like stitching in the back, or like an NYPD hat. If you have thoughts on that, let me know. If you something like that might float your boat. But yeah, we got stickers. I got a poster. I don't know. The poster thing kind of unsettles me, but we're selling it, so it's not my actual face there because that'd be really unsettling. And yeah, stuff is happening. Little I Heart New York with I Heart Joe Tumblr. Look at that. Thing of beauty. It's a thing of beauty. So make sure you check out our merch store for all your merchandise needs. July 4th is coming up. You need gifts for that. Everyone needs gifts for July 4th, don't you? Don't you? Who doesn't? Who doesn't? Think about Mother's Day. It's just around the corner in some parts of the world, I'm sure. Joe Boy, and yes, I mean boy the way you think it means. You need to get Tal Oran, the traveling clat, on your show. Talk about this guy, my net. And yes, I did drop coin on locals. Did you? I checked it out a few times. Oh my, you did. Oh wow, look at that. Oh wow. Let's see what you got here. Let's pull it up here. This is what he's dropping for me. He did. Thank you. I'm going to give you the horn for that. Just because I appreciate it. You know, what? You know, it was you or this. I'm questioning my decisions right now. What? What? Okay. Can I pop this out? Joe Mister, they really need to stage a meeting between one of these fraudsters and Newsom. When they meet, show up and have Fox News their report on it. Not Fox News. Not Fox News. No. We need O'Keefe. We need James O'Keefe there in like a fake mustache and glasses. James O'Keefe showing up there. They won't recognize him. I don't care if you give the fraudster amnesty for the meeting. People need to see the connection. I like it. I like it. I like it. I'll give you another horn just for that. What was this one? Oh, this one. Joe Neerman, Operation Walls Balls. We're going to bust them. That's right. Oops, what happened? What? They thought they were ballers. Now they're crawlers on all fours, like the animals they are. Timmy Newsom, get your leash because we're going to take you on a walk. That's how they should talk. Hey, Joy Reid, Whoopi, all of you on CNN, it was a black kid, EKG fraud. Where's the story? Why are they not talking about it? Yeah, it's a black kid. Why are they not screaming about Kate and Francis? Why don't we hear them screaming about it? It's a black kid. It's crazy. It's crazy. These are good questions. You know it was you or this. I'm questioning my decisions right now. Oh, you were going to watch a concrete. When you said this, I was like, that's not me. I didn't even get it. But I think what he's saying is he was going to be watching this. You shouldn't be. I did better. I did better than this. I did better. We did better. You did better here. You did better here. I'm confident. You're more pleased with the results here. It's got to be. It's got to be. Especially because I'm giving you bonus content over here. Bonus content. We're in overtime here. Update on the reflecting pool. We now might have video of perps destroying the pool. Maybe. Not sure.
But the left, party poopers. And Primetime's got the tapes. The Department of Interior gave us a look at individuals suspected of vandalizing.
Let's make this a little louder. A little louder. Yeah. No, I make you want to shout.
The reflecting pool. Now, we haven't been able to verify the video, but take a look. June 19th, a male, blue shirt, reaches in, stays there for a little while. He goes back down, comes back up multiple times. What's he doing? Then a female, white tote bag. She reaches in, needs a better angle, sets the bag down, dives in a little deeper. And we don't know who these people are. No one was stopped or questioned by police, so no arrests. And we don't have the police report yet. But what are they doing with their hands in the pool? Are they cutting the lining? Are they peeling off the paint? And we don't know if they're committing a crime. They'll probably tell you they dropped their wedding ring. The Department of Interior says this, quote, in the video, you're seeing two suspects observed destroying and removing a piece of the lining and attempting destruction of the lining. This incident took place on June 19th, 2026, and we are investigating. Destroying, injuring, defacing, or removing cultural or architectural resources is a federal crime. The media, who's been covering liberals destroying public property for decades, believe that reflecting pools off limits. They've toppled statues of our founders, spray-painted monuments, burned the church outside the White House, but they think Trump was the one who destroyed the reflecting pool.
Check this out. That American flag blue paint, it's peeling away. The $14 million job to redo the bottom of this reflecting pool is falling apart before our eyes. The algae is still here, but the paint appears to be going away.
Maybe the contractors screwed up the pool, and they're fixing it. But we have a hunch there was also foul play. And we could be wrong, but we're seeing preliminary reports alleging vandalism. Incident 1, June 9th. A week after they started filling it with water, the report says someone slashed a 20-foot section of the liner overnight. Razor blade slashes. The New York Times described them as two 171-foot blade cuts. They also ripped the fence tops off and threw them into the pool. Then, June 19th, a witness watched a man record himself on his phone while ripping the liner with his bare hands. A Park Service employee told him to stop. He said they were, quote, awfully sensitive about the pool and kept going. The National Guard had to physically stop him. When they searched him, his hands and gloves were wet. He was charged with 4 counts. Turns out that suspect is the Olympian, the guy he showed you last night, the canoer, who says he did nothing wrong.
I didn't think I'd done anything wrong, so I had no reason to think I was going to be arrested. But
I'm sitting here with Plastic Man Norm Eisen.
I suggested we walk over toward the park police rather than waiting for them to come to us, and went over and furnished my ID. And kind of before I knew it, I was being handcuffed and realized I was being arrested.
He's an Olympian who's saying, I didn't do anything wrong.
He's a longtime Democrat donor. Gave money to Obama and Act Blue. Arrested by park police once before, back in '96. Now he has a GoFundMe and a lawyer who just happened to have prosecuted Trump in the first impeachment.
This is a meritless prosecution.
This
We will
is a
get
meritless
into all the details in court. Every American should be concerned about this kind of thing. He's a cyclist.
Every American should be concerned this dude has a law license.
Who was going by a concerned citizen.
Totally
curious
concerned.
as Americans are about this mess.
He's just a curious cyclist? Well, the police report says otherwise.
So, yeah. And now the result is, because we can't have anything nice, now they're fencing off the pool. They're installing fencing around the pool now. So we can't have anything nice because we have Democrats. It's really a shame. So there you go. That's what I got for you tonight. I assume that they want to fence it off before we get, so they can try and repair in time for July 4th. That's what I would assume that the story is. So I urge you to check out my merch shop. I also want to give you a heads up that on July 16th, I'm not going to be here. That's a Thursday. I don't expect to be here, at least. I currently have plans to appear on Timcast IRL on July 16th. So I will provide a link for that at that time. I'm looking forward to that. Not true. These are all lies. Lies and the lying liars who tell them. These are not true. V Singh says Trump announced he's going to have the DOJ go after big oil for gas prices not going down fast enough. No, this is not the way, Donald. Meanwhile, crude price is bouncing up. I'll explain plus explore crack spread on my next market stream. Cool. I don't think this is the right way to go. I don't think this is the right way for him to go. I don't think it's the right way to go. It's bouncing back up because there's a little bit of shakiness in the deal actually being that they said they have actually, coming through. So there's been all sorts of cracks. Every time I check my links that I get from Jim Sotelo of Jim Tells You, who you should be subscribed to, much as you should be subscribed over here, please make sure you hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below. Drop a comment now down below, yes. But he always wants me to cover how those talks are basically sort of in this sort of limbo state. They take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So we'll see what actually ends up, whether that deal ends up getting ultimately finalized. If it gets finalized, I'll let you know. But it has not been finalized as of yet. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We need to get them home. It's time. I said by my birthday, they got to be home. My birthday is Thursday. So they better get it. We're running out of time. You're running out of time, Donald. They got to get home. I thank you all for joining me. God willing, tomorrow evening, I will have Sin on here. Until then, I urge you to look out for your loved ones. And please, again, hit the like, subscribe buttons, and check out goodlogic.locals.com, where you'll get notifications of where you can find me, when, where, and all that other stuff. And one of the things you'll probably find there, somewhere in there, if you search enough, is a recommendation that you stay away from lab meat, because it was never made for you. It's meant for they, them. It's lab meat. Lab meat. And do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. Just don't. Just don't. I saw a video today that would just make you want to barf about this kid and this guy eating worms with a kid on his lap. Sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned that. You're all trying to eat. I know. Have a good night, everyone. As always, see you tomorrow. Godspeed.